So human to me is about how we communicate with each other, but more specifically, the power of what is not said. Now, communication spans generations and it evolves over time. It's almost like fashion. Different means rise in popularity at different times. Now, I may show my age here, but I remember sat in my maths lesson, putting numbers in my calculator, turning it upside down and reading the words, yes, you nodding heads. Did you know there are 251 words that can be written by numbers? Yeah, who knew? Move forwards, millennials, text speak. Coded messages of abbreviations. I had no idea what my nephews were saying to me for months, years in fact, and even now they can still confuse me. LOL. Is it lots of love or laugh out loud? Move forward to today and we talk in emojis, a series of pictures, yet somehow without a single word, we know exactly what is being said and what the meaning and emotion is with that message. So expanding on that idea that words could almost be irrelevant, I want to take you to a very special place to me. Somewhere I've spent a surprising amount of time, and not many people get to go there. Now, I'm going to describe it to you. It's cold, it's grey. In fact, it's always grey. There isn't really a distinction between daytime and nighttime. The sky is heavy with clouds and they're angry, and the wind is frighteningly cold. Any skin you have exposed is red raw within minutes because of the freezing torrents of salt water coming down the deck. The winds are roaring, the waves are mountainous, and Mother Nature is in charge. Down here is in the depths of the Southern Ocean. The closest person to you is in the International Space Station. This is called Point Nemo, a geographical location marking the ocean pole of inaccessibility, the furthest point from land that you can get. Now, it's every sailor's dream to conquer the Southern Ocean and notorious Cape Horn, where the whole of the Southern Ocean squeezes through the smallest gap between South America and Antarctica, a violent stretch of chaotic water frequented by icebergs, huge waves, and plagued by gale force winds. Your life is in the hands of your crewmates. Together you're in this and having each other's backs. You have to dress for the occasion down here, dress for the weather, multiple layers, waterproof clothing, fleece layers, hats, gloves, boots, balaclavas, even goggles to protect your eyes from the stinging saltwater spray. You're attached to the boat by your tether at all times, the violent motion of the boat bucking beneath you, pushing you off balance. You're in the hands of your friends and you've got to communicate with them. You have to speak. If you're driving and a new driver comes to take over, you want to tell them what you've been doing, what the waves are doing, what the wind's doing. If you've been trimming the sails, you're holding onto the rope. As you pass it to the next trimmer, you want to tell them what you've been doing. That passage of information is absolutely critical, but it's really hard to hear, and you don't want to expose your face to actually tell them the information. Clear, concise, and pertinent information only. Appropriate actions and minimal words. But so much more can be said by that wide-eyed look, that glint in the corner of your eye, or that smirk that you have. As a leader, my team look to me. They're following my lead. They want to know, should they be freaking out in panic because they're going to their imminent death? Or are these conditions that are actually okay and that they will get used to and get comfortable with? I come on deck and I smile. And it doesn't matter that my face is covered. That smile is in my eyes. And immediately I create an atmosphere of calm and reassurance. It doesn't matter that in my mind it's going at 100 miles an hour of all the potential what ifs. The fact that this boat, this team, these people are my responsibility, and this weather is pretty full on. If I exude confidence, then they absorb it from me. If fear doesn't exist on my face, then it clearly doesn't exist. And this ability to create an atmosphere is absolutely vital when it's life and death. So my crew come off watch after 4 hours battling the waves. The two of them come down from below. It's been freezing cold, big waves. They're wet, cold, tired. All they want to do is crawl into a warm bunk and want the storm to finish. They don't even have the energy to talk to each other, and they definitely don't want to talk to me. But what I can do is say so much by a simple gesture. What I've done is I've turned the kettle on so it's hot. I've already poured the hot water into the freeze-dried food so it's hydrated, ready for them to eat. They can now immediately eat, get in their bunk, and keep their fingers crossed that the storm will pass when they get woken up. What I've said through that gesture is that I've got their backs. I'm with them on this incredible journey they're doing. I want to look after them. I want them to look after themselves, and more importantly, each other. So just my gesture has said so much. With our faces covered, our hands holding on, we need body language, we need gestures, we need expressions to explain how we're going to communicate with each other. On a boat, we've got pretty clever about creating a universal language that allows us to communicate with no words at all. We can be coming up to a start line, lots of boats. It's really noisy, the wind and the waves, and everybody's shouting, everybody's doing the same thing. We've got sails flapping, ropes flogging, we've got grinders grinding, carbon creaking. Anyone shouting, the voices are lost. They're blown away. Yet the driver at the back of the boat is speaking to the person at the very front of the boat. He's telling them to speed up, slow down, and they make sure we cross that line right at the right time. Not a word has been spoken. It's all by hand gestures and line of sight. We can put somebody up a rig 2 stories, 30 meters in the air, and that person can communicate with the deck, saying to go higher, to go lower, faster, slower, all with a hand signal and line of sight. Now, this is great when we've got that trust in each other. And don't get me wrong, mistakes happen, confusion happens. And what we seek is clarity all the time. We want to know that what we're saying is being understood, checking that it's happening. And it's really important that we have that clarity all the time. Now, I had in my last round the world team 10 different nationalities on board. Luckily for me, we sailed in English. But just imagine being wet, cold, tired, emotionally drained, and in life-threatening conditions, and operating in your second language. I mean, my hats went off to them. But the steep learning curve for me was seeking clarity in my communication. It's so easy in the heat of the moment to give instructions and forge ahead, expecting it all to happen. But what I needed to do was pause and check that what I was saying was being understood as it was meant. Because trust me, when we communicate, it isn't always received in the same way it's meant. That clarity of communication is really important. And we're being tested more than ever in our ability to communicate clearly with each other, to actually express these different things. And it means so much when we've had so long apart from each other. Now we're absorbing the interaction, the expressions, the body language, all the peripheral languages that come. When you're solo, this isn't quite as easy. So whether you're working at home on your own or like me sailing solo around the world, how you communicate has to change. We have email, we have a satellite phone, but an email is just words on a page that can be read and reread at any time. A satellite phone has that distorted alien voice with a delay, and you lose the vocal intonation that you hear. So you lose all those soft skills that allow you to add meaning to the words. And that's when miscommunication can happen. So the email, for example, I'd read it on a really good day. Things would be going great. I'd be sailing great. The weather would be great. I'd be feeling really good. And I would be super positive. Take that exact same email on a bad day. I was tired. Maybe I'd lost some miles to the competitors, or I was frustrated because something broke. I'd read that email and I would interpret that totally differently. And I realised then how important that face-to-face communication really is. How much we underestimate those non-verbal cues that are coming to us. So my recent team with the 10 different nationalities, we were sailing from Hong Kong to Auckland, 7,000 miles. And we're doing really well. We're in this race and we're in the podium spot. And we've been there the whole time. We're nailing this. This is good. We come to the top of New Zealand and the wind goes really light. Okay, we're thinking, right, hang in there. We can see the competition. But offshore is the new breeze coming in with 2 of our competitors. We know we're all going to meet at the harbour entrance at the same time. I knew there was going to be a battle. The pressure builds. Everybody can sense the apprehension and the anxiousness as we enter the harbour. We come in, the sun sets, nighttime comes, and we're in the confines of Auckland Harbour. Okay, it's busy, we can't see, we're under pressure, the wind increases to 30 knots. We start doing things differently. We're not communicating clearly, we're out of position, we're doing things we don't normally do, and we crumble under pressure. The final jibe around the island puts us from 3rd place to 5th place. In the final few miles of a 7,000 leg, we've gone from heroes to zeros. Absolutely devastated. And I know what's coming next. Everyone's frustrated. We're frustrated with each other, with ourselves. Even our peers can feel our pain. They thought it was going to be ours too. They knew how hard we'd worked. The spectators knew this was going to be a tricky arrival. We get into the dock and the media are on the pontoon for the normal interview process. I look around, there isn't a single crew member to be seen. They've all gone. They're all dealing with their frustration and their disappointment in their own way. I face the media and they go, so, how's it feel? I have no words. And just that simple sentence told them everything they needed to know. They knew I was broken. They knew I was devastated. They knew we were frustrated. I then realised I needed to say a bit more as they're all hungry for more. And I was like, I spoke about empathy for my crew, how they were feeling, the pride I had at how hard they'd worked. The congratulations to my peers who had beaten us. The frustration I felt, and I vowed that we'd come back. My crew all step off the boat, and as I step off the boat last into the arms of a loved one, then all the emotions come out. And it isn't just the words you say, it's how you say it, the body language, the expression, the eyes, all those other senses that are involved that allow you to communicate so much more than just words. The look can say it all. Don't forget what you're giving out when you're communicating to different people. So we're sat here today and we're not surviving the Southern Ocean. We're not recovering from a crushing defeat, at least I hope you're not. But the principles do remain the same. Many of us are back in a working environment, so don't be that person that emails your colleague 2 desks away. Stand up, walk and talk. Get that face-to-face time. Ensure that meaning that you're wanting to give is being received. Even a telephone is a step in the right direction, because with our voice and our intonation, we add so much more meaning to the words, and it makes people feel connected. Today, some of us are still working at home, or we're living in that hybrid environment. So don't be the one that uses that excuse of a poor internet connection, because really you're having a bad hair day. We honestly don't mind. Embrace the digital platforms and use the video. We don't mind about their bad hair day. What we want is we want to see the eyes, the mouth, the expressions, to know that we're really communicating. And trust me, I've had it tough with covered up faces, so I know how important it is. And I am that person that listens with my eyes. I am that person that will follow somebody around the house if I'm talking to them. If I'm invited into the conversation, I have to physically be in the same room so I can see the person listening to me. Does that make me a strong communicator or a weak communicator? We talk to food critics and chefs, and they talk about food being more than just the taste. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What can you hear when you eat it? It's all your senses come alive. Even art these days is not just a visual medium. How does it make you feel? We want emotions to flow. Even silence can be deafening and add so much more drama than filling the space with lots of words. So I would say there's no right and there's no wrong, but just think how we communicate with people. It's a really powerful tool, and everybody responds differently. So when you communicate, make sure what you're saying is also what you want to be received. Think of it more as a two-way process, a collaboration between parties, and just make sure that it works for both sides. Thank you.